Hello, and welcome to the Greater Raleigh CVB's annual meeting, being held virtually this year, thanks to technology provided by Solido.net. I am Leon Cox, General Manager of the Sheraton Raleigh and Chair of the CVB's Board of Directors. This is not our ordinary CVB annual meeting. We really miss seeing all of you, but I think this virtual meeting will be just as informative and idea generating as the CVB's annual luncheon every August. We have several hundred participating by Zoom, and we are recording today's meeting. Bureau staff will be sending out recording, speakers, slides soon afterwards. Additional write-ups and links will be sent to hospitality partners in weeks ahead through Tourism Talks. We also have allotted time for speakers to present for questions, so please type in your questions and comments in the comment box, and our staff will answer at the end of their presentations. I also want to note this annual meeting's presentations will focus on the foundations of CVB, hospitality business, recovery from COVID-19, and the high-level destination and sales marketing approaches being taken. Our hearts go out to people that have been affected by coronavirus and to those who have lost loved ones during this time frame. There are so many of us impacted by this, including the unemployed. We will not forget that. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize the entire CVB Board of Directors for their time and dedication during this past year. And finally, I would like to recognize our immediate past chair of the CVB Board of Directors, Mr. Dan Freeland. We would normally call him up to the stage and present him with a plaque commemorating his leadership as part of the Wake County tourism development. We still want to publicly thank him for his service last year and for his continued role with the CVB board. We will share his plaque with him offline. Now, I would like to introduce today's sponsor, technology sponsor, Solido.net President and CEO, Sheraton Nahara, for a few words that he will share with you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Leon. My name is Sheraton Nagaraj, President and CEO of Solido.net. We're a local and affordable option for high-speed internet and voice for the hospitality industry throughout North Carolina. I'm very honored to be returning as a technology sponsor this year for the GRCVB annual meeting. What this means for this virtual event is that we're hosting this broadcast from our offices next to PNC Arena. And for those NC State fans out there, Carter Finley. Go Pack. I hope that as we go through this tough and life-changing time, that we continue to work together as a community and offer each other support as often and freely as possible. To that point, my plan is to reach out to each and every one of you to share what we're doing in the community as a Raleigh-born and Raleigh-grown internet and voice business. Let us show how we may be able to help you during these unprecedented times with reduced internet and voice options for your business. Thank you for supporting our local GRCVB. And now I would like to turn it over to Denny Edwards, President and CEO of the Greater Raleigh Convention and Visitors Bureau. Thank you.
Give it 1 second. Well, good morning, and thanks for attending this year's annual meeting. A big thanks to Sheraton and Solido.net for providing our technology today, and to Leon Cox for your leadership as chair of our board of directors. I also want to take a minute to recognize Raleigh City Manager Ruffin Hall on his retirement after spending 7 years here in the market. Ruffin has done a great deal for tourism, including supporting the priorities of the Wake County Destination Plan. Ruffin, thanks for all you have done to support tourism for our destination, and we wish you the best in your retirement. 2020 has not been an ordinary year, and this year's annual meeting is no exception. What a year we've had. I'm going to give you some of the 2019 highlights of what we've accomplished this past year, followed by the impacts of COVID. Then we'll turn it over to Lauren Gold and Jonathan Fries, who will review our response and recovery plans. The Wake County tourism industry just completed its best year on record in 2019, and the horizon looked bright. Wake County welcomed 17.9 million visitors in 2019, who generated a record $2.9 billion in direct spending, which produced $284 million in state and local tax revenues. Tourism-related businesses in Wake County paid $77 million in local property taxes. Tourism employed over 28,000 full-time employees in 2019 who earned a payroll of over $836 million. Wake County hotels finished 2019 at an occupancy of 73.8%, outperforming both the state and national averages. Tourism tax collections finished with record numbers of a total of $63.1 million. Turning to the GRCVB's progress last year, the visitraleigh.com website experienced record traffic of 2.9 million, up 5.5%. Our public relations department garnered more than 470 media placements, totaling over 505 million impressions, and stellar media coverage of the Raleigh area as a premier leisure, meetings, and sports destination. The Greater Raleigh Sports Alliance booked 93 events with a total of 125,000 room nights, representing over $80 million in direct spending. We, along with our area partners, submitted 55 bids in the NCAA site selection process for future championship events for academic years 22-23 through 25-26, with all announcements coming this October. We also hosted All Access Wake County, which was our first accessibility awareness and training day for staff of area hospitality partners. Guest service gold customer training classes were held and resulted in 49 hospitality partners receiving their certification. Our convention sales department booked 238 meetings and conventions, generating over 143,000 room nights for a direct economic impact of $87.8 million. We also hosted a number of signature events, including 6 in the City with a few of our CVB partners in the Washington, D.C. area, and the Visit Raleigh Meeting Professional Summit for over 100 planners from the Wake County area. We also made great strides in year 1 of the Wake County Destination Strategic Plan. Some of the highlights completed and underway include, under meetings and conventions, we worked in partnership with the Raleigh Convention Center to optimize space and leverage our entire convention campus. Efforts were also implemented to increase downtown hotel inventory with a request for information for a new convention hotel, along with funding identified for a future convention center expansion. Under sports, we also advocated with partners for needed inventory developments, supported city-owned assets for capital investments, and advocated and received approval for an indoor sports complex and enhancements to the PNC Arena. For events, we created a signature event fund and implemented the impact calculator for return on investment analysis of countywide events. Under key attractors, we began having collaborative discussions with our key attractor museums on how to grow more compelling messaging and programming by linking their assets and marketing resources. In individual leisure, we continued the creation, development, and curation of unique experiences to drive overnight stays to provide more interconnected and user-ready experiences for the leisure traveler through a partnership with People First Tourism. We also worked with Wake County staff to implement tourism economics to ensure we have consistent return on investment measurement for all projects utilizing the interlocal funds. These are just a few of the highlights of the productive and record year we had in 2019. I could not be prouder of the dedicated, diverse, and hardworking staff at the GRCVB, and I want to take this opportunity to thank each of them for all they have done and continue to do to ensure Wake County remains a premier tourism destination, particularly during these very challenging and unique times. I encourage each of you to go to visitraleigh.com/annual report for the complete 2019-20 annual report, which is being released today. Then came March. You knew this was real when the ACC tournament and March Madness were canceled. Unfortunately, COVID-19 hit the tourism and travel sector the earliest and the hardest, and Wake County was no exception. Nationally, it has had a bigger effect on tourism than 9/11 and the 2008 global financial crisis combined. It's important to note, not only are we experiencing the health and safety concerns of COVID, we are also in a recession and are recovering from the damage we experienced from the recent social unrest in downtown Raleigh, all of which is having an effect on tourism. According to an August 12th report by U.S. Travel Association and Tourism Economics, the leisure and hospitality industry accounts for 40% of the pandemic-related unemployment, and it's expected to extend well into 2023. With the short-term lockdown, along with phase 1 and phase 2, which includes limitations of mass gatherings of 24 outdoor and 10 indoor, we immediately experienced a number of cancellations. To date, we have had 235 cancellations of meetings, conventions, and sporting events, representing a direct impact of over $121 million. All concerts, festivals, events, and performing arts were canceled, and all of our museums have been closed since mid-March. Corporate and business travel also came to a screeching halt. RDU had gone from 213 daily departure pre-COVID to 79. The airport also serviced 59 nonstop destinations with 5 international routes to currently 29 nonstop destinations and 0 international. RDU was averaging 1.4 million passengers monthly to just over 336,000. Current RDU traffic levels are 76% below the same period a year ago. Our hotel occupancy and the average daily rate was immediately impacted in March and has leveled off the past 3 months, but still experiencing significant declines. July, for example, went from 75.6% occupancy in 2019 to 41.3% this past July, down 45.4%, and ADR was down 27.6%. As a result, tourism tax collections have been severely impacted beginning in March. Hotel occupancy tax collections for 2020 are currently down 48.5%, while prepared food and beverage tax collections are down 25.7% for the year. Many forecasts are projecting that we will not reach 2019 performance levels until 2025, with a projected cumulative tourism tax revenue loss of $97 million over the next 6 years for Wake County. As a result, our Wake County Board of Commissioners and the Raleigh City Council immediately made adjustments to the interlocal funding model, which in turn impacted a number of projects funded by the tourism tax. Adjustments included the elimination of the medium projects of $46.6 million, the delay of the indoor sports complex by 1 year to fiscal year 2022, and shifting the downtown convention hotel project by 2 years to fiscal year 2025, and the Raleigh Convention Center expansion to 2 years to fiscal year 2030. The GRCVB immediately went into a response phase in early March, and we are now beginning to phase into a recovery position. To explain more about what we have done and what we are about to do, it is my pleasure to turn over the presentation to Mr. Loren Gold, our Executive Vice President. Loren.
Thank you, Denny, for your determination, guidance, and leadership through a truly unprecedented time. MMGY Next Factor, in partnership with Destinations International, released a comprehensive study in early June of 2020 that we believe not only explains the necessary COVID-19 response actions by CVBs around the U.S., but assists in recovery and the path forward to destination resiliency. The GRCVB gave input to this study and supports the outcomes and guidelines. Let us show you some of the details. From the Organization Next study, there are 3 areas: response, which is the pandemic response, financial crisis, and community spirit. Step 2, recovery, 6 to 18 months, rebuild the visitor economy, preserve viability of the organization, and finally, resiliency, long-term strategic planning, adapt to the new normal, and reimagine the organization. Destination organizations are collaborating with their local government and community organizations more intently than ever before to help support local business continuity. Alignment between public and private sectors represents a new normal for the entire hospitality sector. Fortunately for the GRCVB, we had already started this process 3 years ago, well before the outbreak of COVID-19 with the Destination Strategic Plan 2028. The focus has been on developing innovative strategies that align the visitor industry more closely with Greater Raleigh's broader economic and community goals. The evolution of destination marketing to destination management is a strategic expansion from promoting communities to building communities. Before we get into a more detailed look at our response to the COVID-19 crisis, a few comments from the GRCVB's radical shift in our fiscal year 2020-2021 operating budget. As you'll note on the slide, our fiscal year 20 budget was approved at $8.6 million. We had spent $6.3 million through the end of February of 20 prior to COVID hitting, and the proposed budget for fiscal year 21 that has been approved is $6.5 million, a reduction of $2.1 million overall. Response initiatives, communication, and community advocacy are the root in the phrase, think globally and act locally. Our executive team took decisive action, both from a financial, administrative, and organizational perspective, and then began partner, community, and advocacy outreach in early March related to the COVID-19 crisis. Some examples of some local outreach. North Carolina Restaurant Lodging Association, Wake County, the City of Raleigh, and GRCVB set up webinars in the initial weeks of COVID-19 to inform, guide, and advocate on behalf of community and hospitality partners. Over the weeks, different topics and speakers were invited to participate, along with robust Q&A from the partners. You can find more updated partner resources at visitraleigh.com/COVID-19. Additionally, the GRCVB increased the frequency of meetings from once a month to twice a week with a great group of community economic development partners. Led by the Office of Economic Development and Innovation for the City of Raleigh, we have undertaken many initiatives, from being a resource for PPE to digging deeper to find answers on behalf of partner questions and to give partners guidance, advocacy, and resources related to financial and business continuity. A full list of these partners is noted on this slide, and I would personally like to thank each of them for their continued outstanding efforts and hard work. Our efforts didn't stop at the City of Raleigh and Wake County level. Knowing that the travel industry and hospitality community contributes $26.3 billion to the NC economy and makes up 2.9% of the US economy. It supports 230,000 jobs in North Carolina and 15.8 million jobs in the US. The GRCVB quickly aligned and contributed to the strategic dialogue with our statewide and national partners within our industry. Some state and national initiatives. Count on Me NC, a mutually aligned partnership developed by the NCRLA, Visit North Carolina, the North Carolina Public Health Department, and the North Carolina Cooperative Extension, is a program connecting statewide consumers and businesses for COVID-19 health and safety guidelines. Consumers make a health and safety commitment, and businesses complete a short training program and receive certification along with a toolkit for promotion of the statewide campaign, focusing on rebuilding consumer confidence and jumpstarting regional travel through the state of North Carolina. Additionally, the North Carolina Travel and Tourism Coalition has been very active with the governor's office and the legislature in driving forward guidelines on policies related to COVID-19 and the reopening and return to operations of hotels, restaurants, retail, and event venues. Personal thanks to Lynn Mingus, North Carolina Restaurant Lodging Association, Whit Tuttle with Visit NC, and the folks at NCTTC for the outstanding leadership. The GRCVB has ongoing engagement, communication, and input with Destinations International, our global CVB association, which is working diligently with U.S. travel to lobby the federal government and the White House on policies and resources desperately needed for our industry to respond to this unprecedented event and recovery. Collaboration is a part of Raleigh and North Carolina's DNA. Not a lot of other states are aligned or working in unison with partners to educate, advocate, and promote the hospitality industry and the abundance of economic input brought to our state, city, and county through tourism and visitation. Additionally important is the response phase, communicating and building consumer confidence for a return to travel through health and safety guidelines and partner alignment on key messaging related to response. Let's take a look at the GRCVB's response. With outstanding marketing, communications, and PR teams, 3 million sessions and over 5 million page views annually on our website, and social media followings in the tens of thousands, the GRCVB response to our community and visitors came quickly. A few examples of our team's work: COVID weekly updates, special crisis tourism talks, and Tourism Matter press releases. A full listing of COVID-19 resources, the latest on state guidelines for health and safety supporting digital content and social media posts to support restaurants, curbside and carryout options, outside adventures, and virtual tours. Our visitor services team also set up a live chat functionality for residents and visitors with questions. Our convention sales and sports team members and the services team had been conducting 3 times a week virtual calls to discuss event cancellations, rebookings, and new business opportunities. Additionally, the convention services team connected weekly with many of our county's service providers like transportation, AV, and tour operators for input, updates, and advocacy. All additional details can be found at visitraleigh.com/partners. Let's define the road to recovery. As mentioned from the start of my comments, the comprehensive study known as Organizational Next is guiding us from Part 1, response, to Part 2, recovery. Recovery is centered on these 3 pillars. Pillar number 1, community building. Our community engagement strategy was initially rolled out in 2017 after we completed the Destination Next organizational assessment program. Deeper communication and engagement with the private sector and economic development community was the call to action. The DSP, as previously stated, was then completed in fiscal year 2019, and as Denny noted, year 1 implementation was in fiscal year 20 and was extremely successful. We are now excited to announce the next community initiative called Tourism U. In short, this is a learning track for tourism and destination education for local residents, workers, and leaders in Raleigh and Wake County. Please take a few minutes to explore further at visitraleigh.com/tourismu. Pillar number 2, organizational sustainability. Just this past week, we have finalized an agreement with Wake County to receive $1.2 million in CARES Act money from the federal government to implement a destination recovery campaign. More specific details on that in a minute. We would first like to sincerely thank Chairman Greg Ford, Vice Chairwoman Vicki Adamson, all the county commissioners, County Manager David Ellis, Assistant County Manager Denise Foreman, and many others on the county staff for their guidance, leadership, and belief that tourism matters. Additionally, advertising co-op programs are being discussed with the state of North Carolina and Visit NC for the GRCVB. And finally, through tireless work being done by Destinations International and U.S. Travel, GRCVB is reviewing its qualifications and application options related to Paycheck Protection Programs, PPP, via the federal government. And pillar number 3, customer engagement. One of GRCVB's and our community's biggest initiatives moving into recovery is a focus on our valued community and our visitors to it. Here to tell you more about the recovery plan and tactics, Jonathan Fries, CDME, Director of Marketing and Communications for the GRCVB. Jonathan?
Thanks to both Lauren and Denny for keeping the Bureau in a position of readiness to lead our area's tourism rebuild and recovery. As Lauren mentioned, many of our industry associations like Destinations International and our industry suppliers and vendors have conducted research studies since March to better explain the current state of the U.S. travel and tourism industries and the road to a destination's recovery. And they've freely shared their research findings with us as their members and clients, and with many of you as well. This is really one of the greatest things to have come out of a dire circumstance, in my opinion. I know I've reviewed COVID research and analysis from such sources as Longwoods International, MMGY, Destination Analyst, North Star, PCMA, Tourism Economics, Adara, JLL, Community Marketing, and last but not least in our case, Visit North Carolina. Visit NC has studied both the U.S. markets and the in-state market, especially related to perceived safety, comfort with our hospitality businesses reopening, and degree of confidence and other variables in future trip planning. We have taken all of this borrowed data and added our own analysis of the situation for Wake County, both in responding to potential visitors and event planners' concerns, April through July, and in preparing to re-engage with our millions of destination customers, hoping they can return to the Raleigh area this fall or winter. We have used the research and situational analysis to reevaluate our target key markets, especially for leisure visitation, and to determine the best messaging and message timing to communicate clearly and deliver the right tone around more consumer confidence, health, and safety in resuming travel. I'll give just 2 examples. 50% of past visitation to Raleigh has come from day trippers, and so we're well positioned to see that return first from a radius of 90 or 100 miles around the county. Most overnight visitation also has been from families or solo travelers arriving by car and coming from in-state, and those audiences will be the first to convert to repeat visits if we can reach them now with the right message points. Several of what we call visitation pillars, our festivals, live music scene, and spectator sports, are not currently available. So we'll need to rely upon other tried and true tenets of the destination brand to round out the reasons to visit in the months ahead while we're rebuilding, such as outdoor recreation, shopping at our unique small businesses, or visiting our museums, which will reopen in the governor's phase 3. The Bureau's content marketing and public relations efforts since May have already laid the groundwork for recovery messaging like this. We have supported local businesses by encouraging visitors to make online purchases and attend the businesses' virtual events and activities that they offer. We've promoted social distance friendly outdoor activities and the exploration of Wake County's parks and greenways. And we've given up-to-date information about what is currently open, including our restaurants' curbside and takeout offerings. The Count on Me NC initiative, which Lauren explained, is a blessing to the entire travel and tourism sector as we head into recovery. Potential visitors need to know that restaurants, hotels, attractions, and other businesses are reopening safely and are committed to protecting their guests. They need to know that there's a trustworthy standard, and in this case, the standard is statewide, not something cooked up by a single city or county. Given that Raleigh's potential visitors are spread out all around the country, the blessings of the statewide program is that we can cut through the clutter to communicate it. It's easy to append a Count on Me NC message to an individual business's marketing effort, and it's easy to append it to the CVB's efforts. Our visitor services and convention sales and services staffs are certified, and we highly encourage others to participate so that they can be included in the CVB's marketing pushes for the rest of the year. So for more on that, go to countonmenc.org. It's all about attracting resilient customers back to Raleigh and Wake County again, while instilling confidence that we have their health and safety in mind, while sharing our destination-wide safe practices, and while publicizing the resumption of our activities and events. The CARES Act funding that Lauren described is going to put us on a pathway to accomplishing our business plan objectives again in multiple phases through December, and then again through June of next year as more industries can rebuild. One of the things that we spent a lot of time exploring internally and with the resource groups and alliances that Lauren mentioned was what theme could unite and tie together all of the various content pieces, the ads, the tweets, and marketing materials that we'll produce countywide for the rest of 2020 in support of tourism recovery. It has to be broad enough to wrap around every partner. Its tone has to be familiar. It should be flexible if circumstances change, or we certainly hope not, but if our reopening progress reverses. Most of all, it has to ring true on a gut level to the audiences that we speak to. Wish you were here is the theme that we're applying. We wish you were here, and we say that currently to visitors of all types and to meeting planners and many sports event planners. But do you wish you were here? It also works that way as our attractions, restaurants, and venues eventually reopen to their full capacities. No doubt there's pent-up demand that our messaging can address if we get the safe practices right to ensure that visitors, planners, and their events can return here virus-free. I believe our hospitality workers and business owners genuinely have missed their interactions with Wake County's visitors the past few months, and the creative materials that we're producing in support of a messaging campaign point this out and call to customers' attention the opportunities to engage with the destination's brand while addressing visitor health and safety. We initially launched this campaign last week on the Visit Raleigh brand social media accounts, and my team is now hard at work with our agency, Avenir Bold, to make this a multi-channel, multi-month paid campaign seen across North Carolina and beyond. We also believe that if many of our partners participate both in the Count on Me NC program and with the Wish You Were Here hashtag, it will send a meta message to clients and stakeholders of all kinds that Raleigh and surrounding towns comprise a hospitality community of collaboration and cooperation, exactly as Lauren described, and as our recent destination strategic planning process proved so well. We have prepared an online toolkit of assets, including the logos and including digital, print, and social media advertising templates, and we're making those freely available now to all of our area chambers, towns, and other economic development allies that would like to use them in their own ED work or in consumer promotions around Wake County, similar to how the All Are Welcome Here shared campaign was structured in 2016 and 2017. The Midtown area of Raleigh is already on board with us as an early adopter. I want to mention that our staff is also aware of other great work in the form of recovery messaging that's coming down to us from national membership associations. The U.S. Travel Association has a health and safety campaign called Travel Confidently that launched in June, and also a consumer action-oriented campaign called Let's Go There that went out this week. Destinations International created a meeting planner focused campaign called We're Here to Help that underscores reliance on CVB's sales teams now more than ever. We will integrate with these nationwide themes as our resources allow. We're also aware of others' work locally to implement and share safe practices with returning visitors and guests. RDU International Airport has a program called Fly Confident, Fly RDU. Locally based Concord Hospitality has a program called Pure Stay by Concord. The AHLA has an industry-wide standard called Safe Stay that many hotels are subscribing to. Marriott and Hilton have programs within their brands. And the Raleigh Convention Center complex especially is pursuing an accreditation called GBAC Star. All of these are being tracked by our staff and can be marked within our system called Pixel to appear on a facility or hospitality business partners listing page and the searches on visitraleigh.com. So along with Count on Me NC certification, this is what we will be basing our decision making on as we share examples of what is safe and clean for visitors to do throughout the rebuild and recovery. So I encourage you to log in to pixel.visitraleigh.com and let us know how you are implementing safe practices. This includes our meeting facilities and hotels being able to upload a PDF file that gives their health and safety policy or diagrams of their new meeting space options. The CARES Act stimulus investment is also allowing GRCVB staff to finish 3 other projects to ensure we're ready for tourism's return. Our sales, Greater Raleigh Sports Alliance, and PR and international tourism staff will participate in industry trade shows and other meetups that have gone virtual for the rest of the year. Though actual trade show travel stopped earlier this year, some virtual networking opportunities for business booking and for earned media exploration are now coming back. Our destination technology department will be producing virtual tour photography captured at nearly 100 locations around the county, including our major meeting hotels and sports facilities. We'll then be working with our interactive vendor and with our sales and services teams to promote these tour options to meetings and sports event planners who can't currently visit in person. And we're making enhancements to our official visitor information center and to our information kiosks used inside the Raleigh Convention Center, making them COVID compliant according to Count on Me NC and other safe practice standards that staff manning them will deploy. As mentioned, we're going to mount a Wish You Were Here advertising campaign across all vertical markets, leisure visitation, conventions, sports, and even visiting friends and relatives. Starting with our residential audience that will influence whether their families visit for the holidays and where they stay, and then moving out to a day trip radius and moving out to our professional business audiences that are farther flung across the nation. This will be the biggest concentrated paid campaign that we've done in a number of years, so expect to see it digitally in streaming audio, video, and in print publications. We plan to deliver more than 25 million paid media impressions. We look forward to reinforcing gradually how Wake County is ready to welcome visitors again, as long as both our county and our visitors are making a mutual pledge for health and safety. And we're looking forward to generating new business and bookings again for our area hotels and restaurants, and eventually our museums, other attractions, and event facilities. As Denny emphasized at the beginning, we have thousands of tourism-related businesses, as well as thousands of employed and unemployed who are counting on a full tourism recovery for Raleigh and Wake County post-COVID, due to our years of past success in driving tourism-related economic development for this county. The GRCVB will continue to do everything in our power to put people first, to support you as our business partners, to be innovative in our marketing approach, and to bring back visitor and convention business, related spending, and tax revenues as quickly as possible for our area. Thank you for your partnership this year and next, and I will turn the controls over now to our Director of Public Relations and International Tourism, Scott Peacock, for questions and answers.
Thank you, Jonathan. We've got a couple questions here that have come up already, but I wanted to let everybody know that this is the time if you want to hop over to the Q&A section of Zoom. Feel free to post your questions in there. If we can't get to everyone's questions right now, we will be doing a blog tomorrow, a Tourism Talk blog, where we'll make sure that we go over all the questions and have an answer provided for each one. The first question that came through, I'm just going to go ahead and answer before queuing up our panelists here, and that was, will we be sending this deck out? Yes. This entire presentation, live recording, and the PowerPoint that went along with it will be sent out to all attendees tomorrow. So if you've been taking copious notes, great. If you missed anything, make sure to follow up tomorrow when we send out the recap email. The first question up is, what are your plans to promote travel and tourism to international visitors once international air travel returns something normal? I think I'll go ahead and take that one. Thanks so much, Steve, for submitting that question. You know, great news just this week in the international market. Delta went ahead and announced already that they will be returning their nonstop flight from RDU to Paris next summer. That's fantastic because most experts were predicting that that flight might not return for us until
2022. The thought was that it's going to be a smaller, air flight market when things return, and that we would be maybe a tier 2 city for international, and that it would take at least 2 years to get a flight back. So the fact that Delta is already willing to commit now that it's going to resume next summer, and the fact that it's going to be 5 days a week instead of just once or twice a week is fantastic news for the international market. What we're doing right now is working with a few of our partners that we work with internationally. The first being Brand USA, which is the national, DMO for the country, and doing a lot of marketing and co-op advertising programs with them. The other is Travel South, which is a regional conglomerate of about 12 southern states that go together and market and promote themselves overseas. So exactly in this moment, what we're doing is working on some campaign ideas with them using the CARES Act funding that we just got, so that we can start to promote Raleigh in this last quarter here of the calendar year, which is very good for us because the booking cycle, over half of all international leisure travel in particular, is booked in the first quarter of the year, January through March. So anything we can do to get Raleigh top of mind now, headed into the holiday season, is going to be in our benefit when people go meet with the travel agents in early 2021 and start to book. So that's some of the things at a high level that we're doing. The next question is, can we comment on plan to support the events industry, including Red Alert restart on September 1st? And I'm going to let Denny handle this one, and I'll piggyback that with another question about what are we doing to address the group market and M&C market with some of our CARES Act funding.
I feel like Mindy Cohen. Well, thank you for the question. So the Red Alert, that is for those of you that may not know, that's really an international program that started, I believe, over in Greece and Europe to really raise awareness about the impact that the events industry has and what COVID in particular is having, the impact it's having on the events industry. So we're taking the week, I believe it's the week of September 1st, and to really light up the entire county red, to create awareness about the impact. And then there'll be certain pop-up displays and I don't want to use the word demonstrations, but displays and awareness programs throughout the county to hopefully let people know how much the event industry is really honestly suffering through this crisis. Regarding the group market, we're taking a lot of time. Jonathan mentioned the advertising program. We will be doing a significant amount of advertising in the group market as well. The messaging is just going to be a little different. On the leisure side, we're letting our consumers know what is currently available. And our messaging really from an advertising standpoint for the group side is to let people know that we miss them. We're taking all the proper health and safety protocols that are necessary and additional certifications, such as the certification that the Raleigh Convention Center is going through right now. And we will continue to create that awareness and let them know we're ready and prepared to have them here as soon as they feel safe to meet. Obviously, the mass gathering limitations is a big challenge for all group business right now. So we've kind of got our other messaging on hold until the mass gathering limitations are lifted or increased, and then our messaging will be a little different. But as Lauren said as well, our sales team, both on meetings as well as our sports teams, have been working every day contacting our customers, either with existing business to let them know what we're currently doing, and in many cases rebooking the business to a later date. But we're also working extremely hard on developing and maintaining those relationships with our existing customers to really just keep them apprised about what we're doing. Lauren had also mentioned or Jonathan, I think, about the virtual tours. We're doing a number of virtual tours with all of our major meeting sites. And because, as you all know, many of our planners cannot or will not travel right now to conduct site inspections. So these virtual tours will give us the opportunity to really showcase the entire destination in a better light and give the planners an opportunity to see not only indoors, but also some aerial shots of many of our venues as well.
Thank you, Denny. I think that touched on another question we had, which was, elaborating more on the virtual trade shows and what those are going to look like. So I'm going to let Lauren touch on that. And then another question for you, Lauren, would be, has our target customer changed at all throughout this pandemic? And if so, do we have any strategies or tactics that we're changing to try to hit them?
Sure.
On the group side or the
Group side, yeah. Thank you, Scott. Couple comments specific to virtual trade shows. Clearly, when COVID hit, we cut our budget, as previously mentioned. Our sales team, our sports teams that typically do upwards of 40 trade shows a year live all over the country had those built into their budgets. As we got closer to coming to full fruition with the CARES Act money, we quickly looked at those customer engagements. Many of the trade shows that we know and love have gone to a virtual platform. So our group sales teams, our sports teams are all participating in virtual shows between now and the end of the calendar year. I'd also like to put in a plug. I had mentioned earlier that Visit NC and the state are deliberating this week on some additional co-op money. We are in discussions with Visit NC to potentially curate as many as 3 virtual shows, co-oping not only Raleigh, but other 5 to 6 other destinations around the state. So to kind of build off of the second question that Scott mentioned, I think our immediate focus is backyard. State travel, drive market, 300-mile radius, North Carolina corporations, associations, both state and national in nature within a 300-mile radius, because we think in the short term, as we move into recovery and smaller meetings start to happen, 15, 20, 50 people, those are going to be within the drive markets. Talking to some of our hotel partners, I know that those inquiries are already coming in. So that is going to be the push to get behind and support the hotel community, to start small and ramp back up to our bigger conferences and conventions.
And I'll add to that answer to that question from a leisure visitor standpoint. Yes, so and I started to put a map of this up on the screen as well. We'll definitely do it in our next presentation, but I think that the leisure audience is going to start, like I say, almost from residents getting out and re-exploring their own community and hopefully recommending some activities that are open and things to do for their friends and family even through the holiday season safely. And then the day trip radius, which is really big for our market as well. And then also I would say all the way out through the state of North Carolina, a little bit into Virginia, perhaps as we get into phase 3 and beyond, maybe a little bit into South Carolina, but I think that leisure focus will try to concentrate this investment as much as we can over the next few months through December, just in the state of North Carolina from a leisure standpoint, and then just a little bit around the edges when we're finalizing our exact media plan right now as of this week. So thanks for that question.
Thanks, Jonathan. These next 2 questions will be for Denny. One is, how critical is it to move into phase 3? And what would it look like if we continued phase 2 for an elongated period of time? And then the other question is, what are we hearing from employees and businesses in the community? How are they, feeling as they're trying to navigate through the pandemic? So what's the business climate look like right now?
Repeat the first question.
Yeah. How important would it be for us to move into phase 3?
Okay.
And what's it look like if we're stuck?
All right.
Well, I think moving into phase 3 is critical. Forecasting these nowadays is extremely difficult. But when we looked at the interlocal model, our hope is that we would be back at least 50 to 60% by the 4th quarter of 21. Unfortunately, I think that's going to be a really hard number to reach if we're not into phase 3 by then. As I mentioned earlier, the limitations on mass gatherings is by far our biggest challenge for the group business. If you think about it, it's really even difficult to have a wedding in Wake County now, not alone a meeting or convention. So getting into phase 3 is critical. Jonathan mentioned the opening of museums. We need to get some of our attractions opened soon. Certainly museums and some of the other amenities and attractions we have here, even some of our parks are still closed, and that makes it a real challenge. So getting into phase 3 is going to be critical. I think the The concerts are going to be a little slower. You're kind of seeing that even with college football right now. I think there's a lot of folks working hard to figure out what that maximum capacity could be for larger events, but certainly from the group side and even on the consumer side, getting some of our attractions open is going to be critical. Again, we don't really know yet what phase 3 is going to look like from the governor's office. We're taking some assumptions on that. Hopefully it will allow our bars to open as well, and hopefully increasing some of the capacity in our restaurants. But we still don't have any idea really what the governor has in mind on phase 3, but we hope all those issues will be addressed in phase 3. Regarding businesses, Scott, what was the question on the businesses?
So what are we hearing from the corporate community about? How are they feeling about business travel and things? And
yeah, so corporate travel it's interesting. I was on a phone a couple of weeks ago with most of our major corporations here in Wake County and quite honestly in the Triangle. And many of them don't anticipate that they'll be returning to their offices and probably won't start letting their employees start traveling until probably around the February to April timeframe. So unfortunately, I think the return of our businesses getting back into their offices is going to be slow, which obviously impacts corporate travel as well, right? So so it's kind of a double whammy, but I think there is still a lot of concern from many of our corporations, not only locally, but on a national level as well, on returning. I know, and I'm going to share some numbers that Bill King shared recently with the Downtown Raleigh Alliance, but many of our offices and buildings downtown are running anywhere from 5 to 15% occupancy. So there's not a whole lot of foot traffic, certainly downtown, and I assume it's pretty limited wherever there is office complexes. It's pretty desolate right now. So. Lorna, do you want to include anything as well? Oh, okay. Okay, Scott.
Thank you, Denny. 2 questions here for Lauren. One is, has the major meeting hotels in town shared with the CVB some of their socially distanced room sets? If so, are they allowing for an additional footprint, and kind of how is that working out for groups? Second is related to youth sports market. We know how big of a driver that is for overnight tourism in Wake County. So kind of where do we stand with youth and amateur sporting events and kind of our ability to start hosting more of those again?
Yeah, 2 really good questions. To address the first one with regards to room sets and capacities, to again piggyback on Denny's earlier answer to the question, we do need to move to stage 3, and we do need to increase obviously the internal capacity from 10 people. The hotels that we are constantly in discussions with, certainly the downtown hotels and the other full service hotels around the county, and all of them in particular that have meeting space, are all going through due diligence scenarios, scalability, looking at the typical set of a room and scaling it to where the anticipated number may fall. So they do have a couple of different levels that they've been working with. The other thing that I would add, Jonathan alluded to CARES Act money and usage, and when we're talking about virtual tours, particularly for the full service hotels, we do want to talk to our hotels about engaging and showing some options in socially distanced sets for those virtual tours. We think that'll be crucial to being able to talk to the planning community. The second question specific to youth sports, yes, another hot topic, if you will, one that right now is guided by stage 2 and no more than 25 people gathering outside. We have had the GRSA's had ongoing conversation with the Parks and Rec Department of not only Raleigh and Cary, but the other parks and rec directors in the municipalities around the county. And we know as of late, Denny and I participated in a call last week with the Wake County Hospitality Alliance, which is our hotel alliance. They right now are reaching out to some of their elected leaders. We know that there's some movement in the Cary market specific to that. And I got to share with you personally, I think the biggest thing, having spent the summer traveling with a youth athlete, is not only liability waivers and guidelines, but enforcement. And enforcement is key. Question is, who does that enforcement fall to? Is it the event host? Is it the municipality parks and rec staff? Is it a combination of the two? So those are some answers that we're going to need to get very quickly as we move into recovery. But we are advocating for a return to these tournaments. Key business on the weekends, and certainly in other markets, they're running upwards of 60, 70, 80% occupancy when those tournaments come in. So we'd like to see movement in that regard as well.
Are we advocating for any liability protection as it pertains to that for our partners at all? You know, do we have a thought on
again,
that?
the examples that I've seen from some other jurisdictions is the teams that participate in the tournament host do generate documentation that waives the liability from the municipality, and it puts it back on, obviously, the teams that participate and choose to participate. So by signing that waiver, that gives the municipality protections. Those are the examples that I've seen from Atlanta, from Chattanooga, from Richmond, Virginia, where I've traveled this summer. So yeah.
This one actually will be good for you as well.
Okay.
I know we've been working on gaming partnerships.
Yes.
So could a virtual event in that space help kickstart a return to the group market?
It could, and it has to a degree. We actually hosted 16 professional esports players back in June for a 30-day stay at the Marriott Crabtree Valley. This was a group of West Coast-based U.S. players that play on a platform called PUBG Mobile, for those gamers out there that may be familiar with that. They basically gamed virtually and remotely in their hotel rooms for 30 days. It generated upwards of over 450 room nights. Farah and the team at Crabtree Valley are awesome. There are additional opportunities forthcoming. The beauty of esports is they've had a virtual platform from day one. They curate that with live event activation. So they're still, they really haven't had disruption in their schedules. They've just pivoted to all virtual, and we are in some inquiries right now to, and some possibilities to look at virtual opportunities that will generate room nights. Cool. Yep. Let's have that conversation with Scott.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yep.
In general, we just want to thank everybody for your participation today. We had about 250 people on this call, and we can't wait to see all 250 plus of you in person again at our annual meeting next year. You know, every single one of you matters. Tourism matters. We know that it's something that's very important to our economy, and we're very grateful that you all stuck with us and supported us throughout this. We hope we can now be there for you. So if you have any additional questions throughout this, next couple of weeks or this ongoing pandemic we're dealing with, reach out. The more we hear from you about how things are going in your world, the more we can help find creative ways to help, provide solutions and help you all. So on behalf of Solido.net, Leon, Denny, Lauren, and Jonathan, and myself, we just want to thank you all for coming together this morning and giving us an hour of your time. And we hope you all have a great day. Thanks.